students, welcome. Myself Dr. Roshni, your OBGY faculty. So today we are going to talk about menstruation and ovulation, okay, the menstrual cycle per se. So to begin with, what do you understand by menstruation? It is a visible manifestation of the menstrual blood, okay, cyclical physiological uterine bleeding, visible manifestation due to shedding of the endometrium, following an invisible interplay of hormones, which mainly through the hypothalamo-pituitary ovarian axis that we all know. So menstruation is a visible menstrual flow that you can see because of the hormonal play. So when do you say it is a menstrual period? It is the beginning, the first day of the one menstruation to the next menstruation, first day of the next menstruation. Beginning of the periods to the beginning of the next periods. So first day of each of them, that period is called menstrual period. On an average, it is 21 to 38 days, but usually it is around 28 days period of gestation. What do you call the first menstruation that happens? It is called menarche. It happens around 11 to 15 years on an average by 13 years period of gestation. Duration of flow is around 3 to 8 days or 3 to 6 days, and it is more common 4 to 5 days is the average period of flow. Okay. And remember, menstruation or the menarche is more related to bone age than the particular age of the patient. Blood loss is approximately 20 to 80 ml, average of 35 ml every month. Okay, it is most of this. Of the 35 ml, 70% of it is drained by the first 2 days. Okay, later the bleeding will reduce. This is about the normal menstruation. Let us see how this happens. So there are two cycles that we can divide into. One is the ovarian cycle, one is the endometrial cycle. So ovarian cycle is mostly the hormonal play, and the endometrial cycle is how these hormones are acting on the endometrium and how is it getting shedded out. So firstly, let us read about the ovarian cycle. So what happens in the ovarian cycle? It is development of a mature Graafian follicle. First the primary follicle, and then finally the matured Graafian follicle, and then ovulation. The ovum will be released out, and then that becomes a corpus luteum. Okay, that is called corpus luteal formation, and this will be maintained in the second half of the cycle. If there is no fertilization, this will die. That is called degeneration of the corpus luteum. This full process will take around 4 weeks period of gestation. This is the ovarian cycle. So what are the hormones that will play for this Graafian follicle development or the ovum development? We'll see. So the ovarian cycle consists of recruitment of a group of follicles. It is not just one follicle which will get developed. It is a group of follicles which will get developed. In that, selection of one dominant follicle will be there. Selection of one dominant follicle and its maturation. Ovulation of that follicle, corpus luteal formation, and demise of the corpus luteum. These are the phase that we told of a ovarian cycle. So these are the common questions that they ask you. Recruitment of the group of follicles, pre-antral phase. The cohort of growing follicles undergoes a process of development and differentiation. This the group of 20 follicles, let us see 10 follicles and 10 follicles on each ovary. This 20 follicles are selected almost 3 months, 85 days over the 3 ovarian cycles. Okay, 3 months before only the ovarian follicle which will be helpful for this cycle will be selected. Okay, it is not that this cycle now we are getting selected. So the dominant follicle or the primordial follicle, group of follicles will be selected almost 3 months prior to that of a regular menstrual cycle. Okay, it is presumed that around 20 antral follicles, 5 to 10 from each ovary, are proceeded every cycle. Okay, that is why for one follicle, almost 20 follicles are lost in every monthly menstrual cycle. At this stage, 2 to 5 mm of size will be there. The antral follicle size is 2 to 5 mm, and the growth and differentiation of the primordial follicle is under the control of FSH. As the hormone says, follicle stimulating hormone, isn't it? So initially the size of these follicles is 2 to 5 mm. Now this FSH will act on this. So follicles will get stimulated, follicle stimulating hormone, and the size of this will increase up to 20 mm for it to rupture. Okay. The oocyte is now surrounded by an acellular barrier of glycoprotein produced by the follicle called zona pellucida. Okay, the oocyte will be surrounded by zona pellucida. I will show you the photo of the oocyte and the Graafian follicle, everything. Flattened outer layer of the pregranulosa cells is called as cuboidal multi-layered granulosa cells. Okay, pre-granulosa cell is lined by a granulosa cell, that is flattened cuboidal multi-layered cells. There is an appearance of channels, gap junctions between the granulosa cells and the oocyte, okay, through which these gap junctions, the nutrition is supplied to the ovum, okay, oocyte or is maintained. Granulosa cells are now acquire FSH receptors, okay, that is how the ovarian cycle will run. Selection of the dominant follicle and its maturation depends on follicle stimulating hormone, as we have told. The one which has highest number of follicle stimulating receptors will become the dominant follicle. Accelerated growth and preantral follicle. Everybody is 2 to 5 mm we saw. In the preantral follicles are 2 to 5 mm in measurement. One follicle which has maximum FSH receptor, there where the FSH will act more. So this follicle will grow faster compared to the other follicles. Accelerated growth in the preantral phase. Granulosa cells grow faster than the theca cells, and then there is a follicular fluid. Okay, follicular fluid is formed. That is a ultrafiltrate of the blood. Okay, this is what is supplying nutrition to the ovum, and this is called the antrum. Antrum has the free fluid or the follicular fluid. As early as day 5 and 7, the one follicle which becomes dominant is selected, and then it undergoes further maturation. So by day 5 to 7, everybody is 2 to 5 mm. The dominant follicle will get selected, and that will grow faster to form the future maturation. By day 8, the remaining preantral follicle will become atretic. Okay. Rest becomes atretic by day 8. Dominant follicle has highest antral concentration of estrogen. Okay, the fluid inside will have highest estrogen content and the lowest androgen estrogen ratio. Okay, estrogen is more, that is what we are trying to tell, and maximum FSH receptor. This is what you have to remember. Why that follicle only became the dominant follicle? Because that had the highest number of FSH receptors. If this is the dominant follicle, FSH receptors were maximum to this. So maximum FSH acted on that, and hence this became good in size, and this estrogen was high in the antral fluid, and the androgen estrogen ratio was less. Okay. Next, coming to the 2-cell 2 gonadotrophin theory. This is what is commonly asked in a ovarian cycle. Okay, 2-cell 2 gonadotrophin theory. So what are the two cells? That is the granulosa cells and the theca cells. And what are the two hormones or the two steroids? That is FSH and the LH. Okay, let us see. The synthesis of the steroid hormones is compartmentalized into two different cells of the ovary, that is granulosa cells and the theca cells, regulated by two gonadotrophins, that is the FSH and LH. Remember, granulosa cells has what receptor? It has FSH receptors. Okay, so granulosa cells, FSH will act on the granulosa cells, whereas theca cells has what receptor? It has LH receptor. Okay, so theca cells will be acted by the LH. So firstly, what happens during the LH search? The theca cells will have the enzymes for androgen biosynthesis from cholesterol. So theca cells will produce the androgen, but nothing can be done with that androgen. No, so now this androgen will go into the granulosa cells. Okay, this androgen is going into the granulosa cells, and here they get aromatized. Okay, convert androgen into estrogen. Okay, this helps in the formation ovulation. Okay, this is the 2-cell 2 gonadotrophin theory. You can see first LH is acting on the theca cells. So LH will go inside, and then from cholesterol, biosynthesis of the androgen happens only in theca cells. Okay, the androgens are produced in the theca cells, but they do not get converted there. They do not have aromatization possibility in theca cells. So these androgens will now come to that of the granulosa cells. So these granulosa cells have aromatization. So aromatization happens and the estrogen is produced, okay, under the effect of FSH. So remember, theca cells have LH receptors, do not have aromatization, can synthesize androgen. This is what you have to remember about the theca cells. Whereas granulosa cells have FSH receptors, have aromatization, but they are not biosynthesis for any hormones. They can only aromatize. So they do not synthesize androgens. This is what you have to remember about the granulosa cells. This is how the ovulation happens. Okay. Now, the fully mature Graafian follicle is approximately how much mm? It is approximately 20 mm before ovulation. Once the size of the follicle, even in infertility, when you are monitoring the follicular size, once it is reached 20 mm, that means yes, it is a good follicle. Now it will have chance of having ovulation. Okay. Structures from outside inwards. Okay. Now we told theca cells, granulosa cells, everything, isn't it? So what are the structures from outside inward? Firstly, theca externa, then theca interna. Here is where the LH will act and androgens are produced. And this androgen will now go into that of the granulosa cell. This is the membrane layer, basal lamina or membrana granulosa. Okay. Now these androgen will go to granulosa cells. These are the granulosa cells. Okay. And these will produce estrogen. And here there will be highest amount of estrogen in the dominant follicle. As we have told, for ovulation or a dominant follicle has highest estrogen concentration, lowest androgen estrogen ratio and highest FSH receptor, isn't it? Then now the granulosa cell, then this is the cumulus oophorus. At one point there will be radiating. So you can see at one point there will be peak like a peduncle. It will be there. This is called as cumulus oophorus. This is the corona radiata. Around the ovum there will be some amount of granulosa cells called corona radiata. This is the fluid, that is antrum. Okay. Antral fluid or the follicular fluid. Okay. This is the how the mature Graafian follicle looks like. So you should remember theca externa, interna, granulosa cells, and there is a cumulus oophorus, corona radiata. Inside that there will be ovum and there is a fluid, antral fluid or the follicular fluid, which is rich in estrogen. Timeline for folliculogenesis. Follicular growth and maturation almost takes over a period of 3 months. As we told, 85 days, isn't it? 3 months. To reach the antral stage or the preantral stage of 1 mm, it takes 2 months. And to reach that of the 5 mm, it takes 2 weeks. And from the time it reaches 5 mm to become 20 mm, it only takes 2 weeks. Okay. So, the 20 mm, it only takes 2 weeks. From here to here, it grows fast because of the effect of FSH, that is follicle stimulating hormone. Okay. It is almost 20 mm before ovulation. Till now, we read only about the pre-ovulatory phase, isn't it? So, now the ovulation per se. For example, if this is the ovary and these are the follicles, in the periphery only follicles will be there. So, if this is the dominant follicle, just before ovulation, it will reach the surface of the ovary. Okay, it will reach the surface of the ovary and cumulus oophorus, the one I showed you, the cumulus oophorus here. This cumulus oophorus becomes detached from the wall. Okay. Now the ovum will be free floating in the antral fluid. Ovum with corona radiata is floating in the liquor or the follicular fluid. Oocyte completes its first meiotic division. Now, after getting detached, it will complete its first meiotic division and the first polar body is pushed to the pre-vitelline space. Now, the ovulation happens. Okay, this is multilaminar follicle. This is a mature Graafian follicle. Now, this has reached the surface of the ovary and there is rupture of the granulosa cells and theca cells and release of the ovum. This forms the corpus luteum. If no fertilization, then there is corpus albicans. Okay. If there is fertilization, corpus luteum is maintained for 7 to 9 weeks. So, causes for ovulation are endocrine LH surge. Okay. There is LH, peak of LH due to increased estrogen by 24 to 48 hours. So, what is the cycle looks like? Like this. So, estrogen will be raising over period. If this is day 1, and this is day 14, let us imagine. Estrogen keeps on raising. Since it is maximum at 24 to 48 hours, now what happens? Your LH, which was low all this time because of high levels of estrogen, LH sudden surge will happen. Okay. So, LH surge because of this high level of estrogen. Okay. But because of the positive feedback mechanism. LH surge is a positive feedback mechanism because of raised estrogen and LH is released by the anterior pituitary. Okay, all these things are your MCQs. Please, you have to remember them. Okay, it is because of the persistent raise of estrogen, high levels of estrogen, positive feedback mechanism acts on the anterior pituitary and causes LH surge to happen. Okay, and now that LH surge has happened, it will complete the reduction division of the oocyte. Okay, it helps in the reduction, meiosis of the oocyte, and then this FSH surge also is there. Okay, Along with LH, there is FSH also which is raised. So, it is not just the LH which is required for ovulation, it is also the FSH, because raise in FSH will release plasminogen. So, this plasminogen will act on the ovarian wall, okay, or the follicular wall, and increased plasmin and lysis on the wall of the follicle. Okay, the follicle has to be released, isn't it? This lysis of the wall happens because of the FSH. Okay, maturation or the meiotic division of this ovum happens because of the LH surge, and this lysis of the wall happens because of the FSH surge. Okay, both FSH and LH are required for ovulation. That is what you have to remember. Okay, now coming to the corpus luteal phase. Now that the ovum is released into the fallopian tube, has picked up the ovum, now what happens to this ruptured follicle? First is stage of proliferation, then there will be vascularization, maturation of the corpus luteum, and regression if there is no fertilization. Okay, so what is that will happen? Firstly, the rupture, now the ovum is ruptured, it will be like this. Okay, now this will get proliferated, and now there will be new blood vessels coming. This is vascularization, and then this will get matured. This will release what now? Progesterones. Okay, progesterones will be released from this corpus luteum. If there is no fertilization, then they undergo regression. If there is fertilization, because of beta HCG, the corpus luteum will be maintained. Okay, maintenance of corpus luteum. So, hormones relation for the formation and maintenance of corpus luteum. So, why this corpus luteum is formed? Firstly, after the rupture, mid-cycle LH surge, luteinization will happen. Adequate folliculogenesis. During the pre-entrant follicle, there were so many follicles, almost 20 follicles, isn't it? They would have given enough amount of estrogen. Pre-ovulatory phase, they will have enough amount of estrogen. This helps in the maintenance or formation of the corpus luteum. But maintenance is by the 17-alpha hydroxyprogesterone. Okay. Luteolysis is because of prostaglandin alpha 2. Now this will undergo regression, I told you. It will undergo degeneration, isn't it? Because of the prostaglandin F2 alpha from the ovary and estradiol. For the next cycle, the FSH would have come, estrogen would have come, isn't it? So that time they undergo luteolysis. If fertilization has happened, luteal phase shift. If conception has happened, corpus luteum will secrete progesterone, estrogen, inhibin, and relaxin. Okay, what are the hormones secreted by corpus luteum? These are the hormones secreted by corpus luteum if fertilization has happened. And there will be luteal placental shift. Okay, for almost 7 to 10 weeks of pregnancy, corpus luteum will only maintain the pregnancy. Okay, after that only placenta will take over the action of corpus luteum. Okay, till then corpus luteum only will maintain the action of that of the placenta. Gradually increase in the FSH is responsible for fresh recruitment of follicles for next cycle. So, there will be gradual increase in FSH. If there is no fertilization, again next cycle FSH will start raising, estrogen will start raising. So, this estradiol will cause corpus luteal lysis, and this FSH will cause recruitment of the new follicle for this cycle. Okay. So, this was about the ovarian cycle. So, now we have read about the ovarian cycle. Let us move ahead with the endometrial cycle. So, what happens in the endometrial cycle? Firstly, the lining of the endometrium. What are the layers of the endometrium? From above downwards, decidua functionalis, the one which shed down, the decidua functionalis, stratum compactum, stratum spongiosum. All these three are shed down, and then the decidua basalis, which will not get shed down. This will only grow. Okay, decidua basalis. These are the 4 layers of the endometrium. What are the phases of endometrial cycle? Firstly, regenerative phase. From the menstruation, it should undergo regeneration. Firstly, endometrium should grow, isn't it? That is regenerative phase. Then now this endometrium has grown. Firstly, there will be proliferative phase. Endometrium will keep growing. That is proliferative phase. Then secretory phase. What is secretory phase? This will make it prime for the implantation. It will help in implantation. Glands and vessels will come up good. So, this is secretory phase endometrium. Lastly, if there is no fertilization, there is menstruation. So, the basic or main important is this two, proliferative phase and the secretory phase. So, proliferative phase is under the influence of estrogen. Secretory phase is under the influence of progesterone. Estrogen is secreted from the follicles and whereas progesterone is secreted from the corpus luteum. This is what you have to know. Okay, regeneration happens for the first 2 days. In first 2 days of the menstruation, there is shedding off. After that, regeneration happens for next 3 to 4 days. Okay, this is the proliferative phase. You can see endometrium will start growing. This is under the influence of estrogen. Endometrial layer keeps on increasing. Whereas in secretory phase, there is increased amount of glands and blood vessels. Okay, the endometrium would not grow thicker and thicker. It will increase in size, become glandular, and it is vascular. Okay, then finally these glands will get atrophied and menstruation is shedding of these endometrial layer. Okay, so let us start with the regenerative layer. So regeneration happens when after menstruation, firstly there is some amount of growth. Okay, even before the complete cessation of the menses, this will start from day 2 to 3 of the menstruation. For example, today you are day 3 of cycle, your regenerative phase is already started. Okay, and ends after the menses. So 3 to 5 days it will end. Okay, cuboidal surface epithelium, it has both glands and stroma. Okay, that is how they generate. New blood vessel formation under the influence of vasculoendothelial growth factor, and now the endometrial thickness will approximately 2 mm. Okay, next coming to the proliferative phase. So proliferative phase is in the first half of the cycle during your follicular phase or during your follicular genesis. Okay, that time what will happen? This proliferative phase is from day 5 or 6 till the ovulation or 14th day of cycle. Okay, day 5 or 6 it is regenerative phase. After this it is proliferative phase. Due to the effect of estrogen, the glands are usually perpendicular. It is glands tubular and perpendicular to the surface. Epithelium is columnar epithelium and the stromal cells become spindle shaped and compact in nature. Okay, they keep growing. They keep growing. It becomes spindle and compact in nature. ET will be around 3 to 5 mm. Okay, now the endometrial thickness will start growing slowly. Now, this is how it looks like. Spindle-shaped, compactly arranged endometrial glands. Okay, it is glands are usually perpendicular to that of the stroma. Next, coming to the secretory phase, the second half of the cycle. Okay, the follicular phase and then the luteal phase. During the second half of the cycle is where there is secretory phase. So, it is day 15 till 5 to 6 days before menstruation. That means it is till day 21 or 22. Okay, till then it is a secretory phase of the endometrium. So this is before menses. It is under the influence of both estrogen and progesterone secreted by the corpus luteum after ovulation. This is what is more important, isn't it? From what hormone is supplying where? Endometrium has progesterone receptors, but remember, this endometrium which is primed by estrogen in the first half of the cycle, the endometrium which is primed by estrogen, only that endometrium progesterone will be able to act. Okay, if it is not primed by estrogen, progesterone would not act on that. Okay, endometrium has progesterone receptors, but progesterone can act only on estrogen primed endometrium. This becomes important where in case of AUB. Okay, if you are giving progesterone, still bleeding is not controlled. That means it is not a estrogen primed endometrium. That is where you have to give both estrogen and progesterone for controlling the bleeding. Okay, progesterone can only act on a endometrium which is primed by a estrogen. Okay. Next, surface epithelium is more columnar and places it is ciliated also. Okay, glands become increase in size and taller. We told you now the glands developed under the influence of estrogen. Now these glands become taller and wider and more increase in size. Okay, vacuoles are present below the nuclei. Okay, because of the glycogen between nuclei and the basement membrane. Because of this, there is vacuolated nuclei. Okay, subnuclear vacuolation it's called. And show you the photo. You can see here there is subnuclear vacuolation as the arrow shows. Subnuclear vacuolation. If they give you a photo like this with a subnuclear vacuolation, what is the phase of the endometrium? It is a secretory phase endometrium. Correct. And lastly, menstrual phase. It is because of the regression of the endometrium. Now the corpus luteum was not maintained by fertilization. So now corpus luteum is got lysed. So now there is no progesterone and estrogen. What happens to the glands? They will start becoming regressed and then they will start bleeding, isn't it? Regression changes in the endometrium 24 to 48 hours prior to menstruation only it starts happening. Marked spiraling of the arterioles and withdrawal of the hormones. We told you now corpus luteum is lysed, no estrogen, progesterone. So withdrawal of hormones causing vasospasm at the basal part of the endometrium, stasis and anoxemia. It got necrosed. Now this will get shed down. And degeneration and casting of the endometrium. The shedding of the endometrium is seen. Due to the degeneration of the corpus luteum, fall in the hormonal levels. Now you know ovulatory cycles are because of what? The withdrawal of progesterone from the corpus luteum. Anovulatory cycles do not have this. Anovulatory cycles keep on growing. 6 to 8 weeks of amenorrhea, they keep on growing and superficially no blood flow. So they lysed and they dead. Then they are shed down. Okay, that is how the anovulatory cycle happen. Whereas in ovulatory cycles, the menstrual phase is because of withdrawal of progesterone. Corpus luteum is died, so there is no progesterone. So hence the menstruation is happening. Okay, this is what you should remember. Anovulatory cycle is because of lack or deficiency of estrogen. Whereas in ovulatory cycle, menstruation is because of lack of progesterone because the corpus luteum is lysed. Now that menstruation has happened, how does this menstruation bleeding stop? These are got lysed. Why is it not continuously bleeding? Why does it stop after next 3 to 5 days? Because of prolonged vasoconstriction. There is this vasoconstriction, vasospasm and constriction is prolonged, isn't it? There is no more blood flow. Whatever was there superficially has come out, but there is no more further blood loss. That is why the bleeding will stop. Also, myometrial contraction. Then local aggregation of the platelets with deposition of fibrin around them. So platelet aggregation and fibrin deposition, endothelial and platelet activating factors, a potent vasoconstrictors. All these help in stoppage of menstrual cycle. Also, along with all these things, we told you by day 2 what will start? Regeneration of the endometrium, isn't it? Under the influence of estrogen, Graafian follicles helps in the repair. Okay, the regeneration of the endometrium is happening. So, the menstrual bleeding will stop. So, before concluding, let us tell few hormones and its action. What does prostaglandin F2 alpha do? It is contracting, okay, both myometrium and that of a vasoconstriction. Okay, it is myometrial contraction and vasoconstriction. Whereas prostaglandin E2 is what? It will only cause myometrial contraction but vasodilatation. Myometrial contraction but vasodilatation. And prostaglandin I2 is what? Myometrial relaxation and vasodilatation. So I2 is not the one. I2 is causing relaxation of both. Okay. Whereas F2 alpha is causing contraction of both. And prostaglandin E2 is myometrial contraction with vasodilatation. Okay. This is what you should remember. And these are the reasons for menstrual pain. In a normal menstruation or ovulatory menstruation, there is some amount of pain. Okay. Dysmenorrhea may not be severe, but there is some amount of pain. Spasmodic or congestive dysmenorrhea is there. Okay. Spasmodic dysmenorrhea is noted. Menstrual amount of pain and blood flow. Okay. To conclude, menstruation and ovulation go hand in hand. Okay. With good ovulation, there is normal menstruation. If there is anovulation, there is abnormal uterine bleeding. Ultimately, whatever we see or think is because of the hypothalamo-pituitary-ovarian axis, because of the FSH, LH, all these things. Though endometrium is shedding, this is also shedding because of the influence of FSH, LH, estrogen and progesterone, isn't it? Abnormality in this will lead to menstrual disturbances and even can cause infertility. Okay, if the ovulation is not happening properly, it can cause infertility, isn't it? So now let us do some of the MCQs related to menstruation. Secretory phase endometrium is due to which of the following hormones? Estrogen, progesterone, HCG, FSH. Progesterone. We have told this so many times. Then, which of the following hormone is responsible for firming of the cervical mucus? Firming of the cervical mucus happens in the initial phase. It allows the sperm to enter into the cervical cavity and reach that of the ovary. Okay. When does this should happen? In the after ovulation or before ovulation? Before ovulation, isn't it? That is when sperm should reach the fallopian tube and helps in fertilization. So what is the hormone before ovulation? It is estrogen, isn't it? So it is under the influence of estrogen. Next question. Which of the following is most appropriate reason for the apoptosis of the endometrial cells in the absence of fertilization of ovum? Okay. Raised estradiol levels block the induction of progesterone receptors in the corpus luteum. No, this is not the reason. Raised estradiol levels block the induction of progesterone receptors in the endometrium. No. Raised estradiol levels will cause good. Estrogen primed endometrium is required for the progesterone to act, isn't it? So this is wrong answer. Corpus luteum involutes causing sharp decline in estradiol and progesterone levels. Yes, this is the correct answer, isn't it? Corpus luteum, decline in estrogen progesterone leading to spasm of the vessels causing endometrium to shut down. Progesterone levels increase markedly leading to apoptosis of endometrial cells. If there is progesterone, will the endometriosis go under atrophy or spasm? No, there will not go. So this will happen in case of pregnancy, isn't it? That time there is no menstruation. Pregnancy, there will be amenorrhea. LH surge post-ovulation is major contribution for this process. No, menstruation doesn't happen because of LH surge. LH surge, what will happen? Ovulation will happen. So this is also wrong. Next question. Identify the incorrect statement regarding Graafian follicle. Leica folliculi is secreted by granulosa cells and contains estrogen. True, isn't it? The antral, the fluid is rich in estrogen and it is secreted by the granulosa cells. It is the ultrafiltrate of the blood and rich in nutrients which helps for the survival of the ovum. Now, ovum lies within the discus progenitus or the corona radiata formed by the granulosa cells. True, correct, isn't it? The size of the Graafian follicles before puberty is more than that of the after puberty. It is a very obvious answer. Do they have a Graafian follicle or mature follicles before puberty? From puberty only ovulation will start. So before puberty there is no point of having a Graafian follicle itself, isn't it? So this is wrong. Formation of Coll-Exner bodies is characteristic feature of granulosa cells. Yes, Coll-Exner bodies are the characteristic features. This we have read it even in the ovarian cancers, isn't it? The, histologically classifying feature, characteristic feature of a granulosa cell tumors. So the correct answer will be C. Next question. Some studies in humans suggest that right ovary ovulates more than the left ovary. Which among the following is not a possibility of the explanation? See, right ovary and left ovary, as such, there is no proven this thing. But yes, there are some studies which says right ovary has better ovulation than the left ovary. Okay. But this is, what is the reason behind this is not sure. It can be due to because of the blood flow, anatomy or the follicles. Okay. Predominant right-handedness of the human. Right-handedness is not going to cause anywhere ovulation, isn't it? So this is directly a wrong answer. Embryological association, yes, it can be the cause. Maybe that side received more primordial follicles. And asymmetry of the anatomy, yes, right and left may be the asymmetric anatomy. And differential in the blood supply. These are all more related than that of this. So the first answer will be wrong answer. Next question. Which among the following is incorrect regarding corpus luteum? Attains maximum maturity by day 22 of the normal cycle. Yes. Corpus luteum is there till 22 days if there is no fertilization. If there is fertilization, it will stay up to 7 to 9 weeks, isn't it? So this is correct. Corpus luteum of pregnancy is active up to 20 weeks of human beings. No, it is only active up to 7 to 9 weeks. From then the placenta will take over. So this is wrong. Corpus luteum in pregnancy is larger and more cystic than a corpus luteum of menstruation. Yes, definitely because of the effect of the HCG. In pregnancy, the corpus luteum will be big in size. If not, that will be small in size and it will undergo regression. It is an obvious answer. So this is a correct answer. Yellow color of the corpus luteum is due to carotene. True. So the correct answer will be B. Next question. Which among the following is incorrect regarding the endometrial changes in the menstrual cycle? It lasts up to 10th day of the menstrual cycle. Does the menstrual cycle or the endometrium menstruation last up to 10 days? No, the changes cannot last so long, isn't it? So this is a wrong answer. Secretory phase reaches peak by 22 days of menstrual cycle. Yes, after that, the corpus luteum will regress if there is no fertilization. True. Subnuclear vacuolation is a characteristic feature of secretory phase. Yes, we have showed you the microscopic picture also. So, if this is the nucleus, this is here. Because of glycogen, there will be subnuclear vacuolation. So this is true in a secretory phase endometrium. Correct. Typical trilaminar endometrium is seen when trilaminar endometrium is seen during ovulation. Okay, that means the chance for fertilization and implantation is good. Endometrium is well prepared for the implantation of the embryo. Okay, trilaminar endometrium is a good sign. Next question. A 30-year-old woman presents for her annual gynecological examination. She reports her menstrual cycle lasting 20 to 30 days. Is it normal? Yes, normal. With moderate flow lasting 5 days. Is it normal? Yes, it is normal. She denies any significant menstrual pain or other menstrual abnormalities. So she says there is no other complaints as such. So she denies many significant menstrual pain or abnormalities. Her physical examination and pelvic ultrasound are unremarkable. So her complete examination looks unremarkable. Which of the following hormone profiles would be expected in her? Elevated FSH LH level, why everything is normal, why there should be elevation, wrong. High estradiol, low progesterone, no, why no. Surge in the LH level around the 14th day of her cycle, yes, there will be a surge, not today but on the 14th day they have mentioned, so there will be some amount of surge. LH surge is normal because she has 28 days cycle, so 14th day there will be LH surge, isn't it? Consistent levels of FSH, LH, estradiol and progesterone throughout her cycle. So it will be a consistent level. So appropriate level should be there for maintaining. Both C and D can be the answer. Next question. A 25-year-old woman visits her gynecologist for a mild pelvic discomfort. Okay, there is some amount of mild pelvic discomfort. Increased vaginal discharge occurring during the middle of the menstrual cycle. Okay, this is the menstrual cycle. In the middle, there is some amount of pain and vaginal discharge. She describes discharge is clear and stretchy. So discharge is normal, clear and stretchy discharge. Typical sign, billing sign. That is what she's saying, no? Stretchy discharge. Clear and stretchy discharge, billing sign. Her menstrual cycle is regular with cycle length of 26 to 29 days. So the cycle length is 26 to 29 days. So that is a normal cycle. She is sexually active, not currently using contraception. What is the physiological event most likely in her symptoms? So this is called, what is this? Michelmer syndrome, isn't it? That is mid-cycle, ovulatory pain. Ovulatory pain, because of the rupture of the follicle, there will be some amount of pain and fluid in the POD, some amount of pain noticed in few patients. Okay, that time they even can have smile spotting PV also. Okay, and this is associated with vaginal discharge during the follicular phase because of the cervical changes. There is some amount of vaginal discharge. This is called as billing sign. Also, there is raise in basal body temperature. In our infertility class, we've read all these things. This happens during ovulation, isn't it? So the correct answer is ovulation. She is ovulating. That is why she is having these symptoms. Next question. A 27-year-old woman interested in tracking her fertile window, okay, optimizes her chance for conception. Most commonly, patients are coming these days with that. Okay, I want to conceive. What is my fertile period? How will I track this? This is the most common complaint we are having these days. Her menstrual cycles are typically 30 to 32 days. Normal cycle. She has heard about the calendar month. So what is the calendar month? In infertility we have read, it is the period where she is fertile. So when she can have intercourse and what is the fertile period. But wants more accurate approach. Okay, calendar month, I think it is easy to tell verbally in a clinic, but she wants an accurate approach. Which of the following methods would be most effective for her to predict her ovulation? So there are so many kits available nowadays for prediction of the ovulation. Okay. Basal body temperature charting, yes, you can do, but it is not most effective or to predict her ovulation. Combined tracking of basal body, cervical mucus and LH surge. Yes, when you do all of them, the accuracy will increase definitely, isn't it? So this itself will become the answer. Monitoring cervical mucus changes alone will not be more effective. Urinary LH surge kit detection. Yes, this already is given here. So when you do multiple methods, the accuracy will definitely increase. So this is the most correct answer. But remember, all of them are correct here, but the most effective is the second option. Next question. Which of the following is or are true regarding the implantation window? So when does the implantation happen? So ovulation happens on day 14. Fertilization happens on day 15. So after that, implantation happens 7 days later, no? So implantation happens on day 21 to 22, somewhere around this. So true regarding implantation. That is what they are asking. Day 20 to 22 in a normal cycle. True. Penopod formation is the more important event. Penopod means it is the embryo which will reach the top of the uterus. Okay, now the embryo is reached. Now it will engulf this embryo into the endometrium. This is called penopod formation. So this is an important event. Yes, true. Penopod formation is under the influence of estrogen dependent. Is the second half cycle estrogen or progesterone dependent? It is progesterone dependent. So this is wrong. Both A and B are true. So the correct answer will be D. Next question. Which one of the following regarding the functions of prostaglandins is correctly matched? Okay, which of them is correctly matched? Prostaglandin F2 alpha. What does it do? It causes myometrial contraction and vasoconstriction. What they have given? Myometrial relaxation. Wrong. Prostaglandin I2. What does they cause? It causes relaxation of both. It is myometrial relaxation and vasodilatation. What they have given? Myometrial contraction. No, wrong. Prostaglandin E2 causes myometrial contraction and vasodilatation. So this is correct answer. Prostaglandin I2 causes vasoconstriction. Is it? No, it causes vasodilatation. So this is wrong. Only the option C is correct. Okay. So the correct answer here will be prostaglandin E2, which will cause myometrial contraction and also it will cause vasodilatation. So these are the questions about your menstruation and ovulation. I hope you have understood the class on ovulation and menstruation well and you will be able to answer in your exam pretty good. Okay. Thank you.